The night I died. I remember the smell first. Cold, sharp, heavy. The kind of smell that tells you something terrible has happened. At first, I thought I was dreaming. My body felt stiff, like it did not belong to me anymore. I tried to move my fingers. They barely moved. Then I heard voices somewhere in the distance. Just leave him there. He drank himself to death. Someone laughed. Another one gone. Gone? Gone where? My heart began beating faster. I forced my eyes open slowly. The light above me was dim and flickering. I turned my head to the right, and that was when my heart nearly stopped. A dead man was lying beside me. His eyes were half open. His body was stiff. And suddenly I realized I was lying in the middle of a morgue. But before I tell you how I ended up among the dead, you must first understand the kind of man I used to be. Welcome to Stephified Stories, where real life speaks and every story leaves a lesson.
My name is Emeka Okofo, and for many years I was known for only one thing: drinking. I lived in a busy part of the city where the streets never really slept. There were always motorcycles passing, music from roadside bars, laughter from drunk men who had forgotten their problems for the night. That was my world. Every evening after work, I did not go home. I went to the bar. The bar owner already knew my order. Before I even sat down, he would place a bottle in front of me. Emeka, your usual. Cheap gin, strong enough to burn your throat, cheap enough to destroy your life slowly. The first drink always felt good. The second drink made everything lighter. By the third drink, nothing else mattered. Not my home, not my responsibilities, not even my wife.
My wife's name was Grace, and if patience had a face, it would look like her. Grace was the kind of woman people prayed to marry. Calm, kind, hardworking. But somehow, she married me. Almost every night, she waited for me. She would sit by the window, listening to every sound outside, every passing motorcycle, every car horn, hoping one of them would bring her husband home. Sometimes she waited until midnight, sometimes until 2 in the morning. And many nights, I never came home at all. It became a normal thing in the neighborhood. Someone would knock on our door late at night. "Madam Grace, please come." She would open the door slowly. "What happened?" "Your husband, he drank again." Sometimes they found me lying beside the road, sometimes inside a gutter, sometimes sleeping under a table in the bar. Grace never shouted. She never insulted me. She simply helped me up, put my arm over her shoulder, and slowly walked me home. People watched, some laughed, some shook their heads, but Grace said nothing. She only carried her husband home. One night, something happened that changed everything. I was drunk again, very drunk, and for no reason at all, I started fighting inside the bar. Chairs fell, bottles broke, men shouted. Someone called the police, and guess who they called to come and carry me? Grace. When she arrived, she saw me on the floor. My shirt was torn, my lip was bleeding. People were standing around recording videos with their phones. One man laughed loudly and said, "See the kind husband this woman married." Everyone laughed. Grace stood there silently, but inside her heart, something broke. A few days later, Grace visited her family. Her mother held her hands tightly. "My daughter, why are you suffering like this?" Her older brother spoke angrily. "This man has no respect for you. Leave him before he destroys your life." Grace looked down quietly. Then she said softly, "He is still my husband." Her brother shook his head. "For how long will you keep saying that?" Grace did not answer, but for the first time in many years, even she did not know the answer. That same week, Grace went to the hospital. She had been feeling weak for days. After some tests, the doctor smiled gently. "Congratulations, you are pregnant." Grace sat there quietly holding the result. Tears slowly filled her eyes. A child, a baby, a new life. She wanted to be happy, but instead, fear filled her heart. How could she raise a child with a man who could not even control himself? That night, she cooked my favorite meal. She wanted to tell me the news, but she waited and waited and waited. I never came home. Instead of coming home, Grace received a phone call. "Madame Grace, please come quickly. Your husband is lying on the roadside. Cars are almost hitting him." Grace closed her eyes. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stood up quietly. This time, she had already made a decision. When Grace arrived, I was lying near the road, unconscious. My clothes were dirty. The smell of alcohol surrounded me. She stood there, looking at me. Not angry, not crying, just tired. Then she whispered softly, "If fear cannot change you, maybe death will." She stopped a taxi. With the driver's help, they carried me inside. But she did not tell the driver to take us home. Instead, she said something unexpected. "Take us to the mortuary." At the mortuary, 2 attendants were working the night shift. Grace explained everything. "My husband drinks until he becomes useless. I don't want him to die, but I want him to understand what death feels like." The men looked at each other. Then they laughed. But Grace was serious. She paid them some money. Then she said firmly, "When he wakes up, tell him he is dead. If he refuses to stay there, beat him. Do not allow him to leave easily." The attendants nodded slowly. They carried my unconscious body inside and placed me among the dead. Hours later, I began to wake up. My head felt heavy. My mouth was dry. I could smell something terrible, something cold, something lifeless. Slowly, I opened my eyes. The room was dim. Metal tables were everywhere, and bodies were lying on them, covered with white sheets. My heart began to race. I slowly turned my head and saw a pale face staring at me. Dead, cold, still. My heart exploded with fear. I jumped up immediately. "Help! Help! I'm alive! I'm alive!" Suddenly, a mortuary attendant appeared. He was holding a long cane. He looked angry. "What nonsense is this? I'm alive!" I cried desperately. The man shouted loudly, "Alive? Who told you that?" Then the cane landed hard on my back. "Lie down. Dead people do not shout." Pain shot through my body. "But I'm not dead," I screamed. Another strike landed on my back. "You drank yourself to death. Now stay with the other corpses." Fear swallowed me completely. Had I really died? For hours, I cried, begged, shouted, but the attendants kept telling me the same thing. "You are dead." Finally, something inside me broke. I sat on the cold floor and cried like a child. I remembered Grace, all the nights she carried me home, all the tears she hid, all the shame I caused her. For the first time in my life, I prayed, God, if you give me another chance, I will never drink again." After many hours, the attendant finally said, "If you truly believe you are alive, run." I did not wait. I ran out of that mortuary like a madman, barefoot, sweating, terrified. I ran all the way home. When I burst into the house, Grace looked up quietly. "You're back." I fell to my knees immediately. "Grace, forgive me. I thought I died tonight." Tears ran down my face. "I will never drink again." Grace looked at me silently. Then she said calmly, "I buried my husband tonight. If you are still alive, prove it." That night changed everything. I never touched alcohol again, not once. Every time I remembered the cold bodies in that room, my whole body shook. I started working harder, coming home early, taking care of my wife. Months later, Grace placed my hand on her stomach and smiled. "You're going to be a father." Tears filled my eyes, because I knew something very important. That night, I truly died, and somehow, I was given another life.
Life did not change for me overnight. Stopping alcohol was not as easy as making a promise. The next evening after that terrible night, I finished work and began walking home. As I passed the same street where my favorite bar was located, I stopped walking. The music was loud. Men were laughing inside. I could hear bottles clinking together. For a moment, my legs almost carried me inside like they had done for years. But then something happened. My mind suddenly remembered the cold air of that morgue. I remembered the lifeless bodies lying beside me. I remembered the fear that ran through my bones when I thought I had died. My whole body trembled. Slowly, I turned away from the bar and continued walking home. That night was the first real victory of my new life. Grace noticed the change before anyone else. She watched quietly as the days passed. I began coming home early. I started helping around the house. Sometimes I even cooked dinner while she rested. At first, she did not say much. Maybe she was afraid the change would not last. Maybe she was waiting to see if I would fall back into my old habits. But weeks passed, then months, and I never touched alcohol again. People in the neighborhood began to notice. Some of the same men who used to drink with me would call out to me when I passed their bar, "Emeka, come and join us." I would just smile and wave. No, my brothers, that life is finished for me. Some of them laughed, some of them were surprised, but I kept walking because I knew something they did not know. I knew what it felt like to believe you are dead. I knew the fear of lying among lifeless bodies. That memory never left me. And in a strange way, I was grateful for it, because that night saved my life. One evening, many months later, Grace called my name softly. "Emeka, come here." I walked into the room and saw her sitting quietly. There was a small smile on her face. She gently took my hand and placed it on her stomach. Then she looked at me and said words I will never forget. "You are going to be a father." For a moment, I could not speak. Tears filled my eyes immediately. All I could think about was how close I came to destroying everything: my marriage, my future, my family. But somehow, I had been given another chance. And this time, I was determined not to waste it. Sometimes in life, people give us advice. They warn us. They beg us to change. But we ignore them. We think there will always be more time, more chances, more tomorrows. But the truth is, life does not always work that way. Sometimes a person must face something shocking before they finally wake up. For me, that moment came on the cold floor of a morgue.
Lying beside the dead, I realized how close I was to losing everything that mattered. My wife, my future, the life I had been given. That night taught me something I will never forget. A man does not have to die to lose his life. Sometimes he only needs to lose his direction. And sometimes, the greatest gift God can give a person is a second chance to change. I will always remember the night my wife decided to teach me a lesson, because that was the night I thought I died. But in truth, that was the night my life finally began. If this story touched you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed your life? Share your story below. I want to read it. If you want more powerful life stories like this, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a life-changing lesson today. Remember, sometimes one lesson is all it takes to turn a life around.